All right, guys, here it is, man. It's been a few years in the making. Been working on a new rod series. Huge shout out to all the guys and all the people out there that has supported me in that first rod series that I designed. The OG, I still have obviously quite a few of those rods on the back burner, and sort of it was a dream come true to have your first signature series rod series. You know, just to build something that you actually want, building the actions that I personally felt like I needed to compete. It's something that I will never forget, and I'm obviously super appreciative of that first series. And then now transitioning to the second series at the 2.0s, you know, realistically the mindset was to try to make it better. I sat down and really worked with the whole team there at Duckett Fishing and said, look guys, we really need to come up with a game plan to how to make things lighter, make things more sensitive, anything that we can do to up the game, not just create another rod series. How can we increase the value of what the consumer is getting? And that was sort of the mindset before we get into each blank and everything else. That was the mindset behind this, you know, increasing the value and making a better rod for what you guys are getting. And so that was really where it came down. First off, cosmetically, you guys will see, obviously you still have the white top portion of the rod, but really like that truer blue. I love that look. You guys actually have my signature on the blank right there. The last one did not have that, so I was like, look, we're gonna have my actual signature on the blank, not that font, and sort of something a little bit different. And just like it just looks great. I love the look of it. It matches well with the Select series of rods, so just cosmetically, I really just like the look of it. Now, as far as what each rod, I'll talk and jump into each rod and what I designed them for. So in total, there's 9 individual SKUs in the line of rods, and so which is a little bit lesser than what I had, but I sort of like fine-tuned the best of the best for this rod series, if you will. Let's sort of jump into sort of the new stuff that is really just some new sizes, rods, and sort of why I decided to do that. Let's just start off with the cranking rod. This rod right here is a 7.2 medium cranking rod, and I went back to, like, with the original series, it was like graphite composite. I went back to just a graphite rod, and the reason behind that is, of course, weight. I think they've also I've had a lot better luck recently with a graphite rod with flat sides and DT6s and stuff like that, a softer rod, and I just felt like it was a little bit cumbersome. It was a little bit bigger profile. I felt like I still like it for cranking bigger square bills with that graphite composite. I still have some of them, of course. I did create a graphite cranking rod in the Select series, and that rod does a really good job to act sort of as my bigger square bills and some of the bigger baits that I throw on our shallow water cranking or medium diving crankbait rod. You know, it does a really good job for that. So to me, the one thing I was missing in my line was the flat side DT6 rod. And that was really like, it still works great for a square bill as well, but it's a little bit more in the lighter action of a blank. And especially like when cranking's a great time, like whether that's a little lipless crankbait, a 1/4 ounce trap or something like that, I wanted a rod that did all those things that I needed it to do. So that was sort of the mindset behind this one. Comes in at 7 foot 2 inches because I want to have a little bit more distance. A lot of times when I'm cranking, I'm really casting a fairly decent long, you know, a pretty good ways, whether I'm on a flat, whether I'm cranking down a rock bank. I want to get my bait down to the desired depth. So 7 foot was good for target casting on a shorter rod, but 7.2 allows me to get that distance down that bank. And especially when I'm trying to get down that crankbait down to true like diving depth, that's when I was really like, okay, there's couple more inches, really getting that distance on that crankbait is going to get my bait down there and have more to roll with. Also, having a softer rod when you're cranking over a lot of that cover, you have a little bit more feel. With the graphite, you have a little bit more feel. So you sort of know, when your bait's getting up to that rock a little bit faster. The feel and just the vibrations, like the sensitivity of this rod is good. Now, and because it is so soft, not pulling that bait away from it. I think the big problem that I always had back in, earlier in my career was the graphite rod. I would pull the bait away from them. So I made it soft enough where I'm not have a tendency where I feel the bite. I'm not snap setting on a crankbait, which is the worst possible thing that you could do, where you're still pulling into them. You're allowing that rod, when you're cranking the crankbait hookup ratio, you really are truly depending on the rod to set the hook for you. So as you pull into them, yeah, you're sort of leaning, but you're really depending on the action of the rod to do the work for you. So that's why it's so important to have the right crankbait action. So this rod did just that, and I got it paired up with this Xenon right now, cranking around a 12-pound line. It's been a pretty awesome rod. I've caught several fish already cranking around with that guy. Jumping up into a new rod in the series with shaking a minnow, shaking your minnow, becoming such a great technique and a way to catch so many bass, whether you're a big forward-facing sonar guy or you're not. I mean, it really has taken the bass fishing industry by storm. Obviously a freeloader, jump started that at like Guntersville, having a big win down there. And so as I sort of was developing this rod series, I was talking to the guys there and I'm like, look, I want a lighter head, great minnow shaking rod. So I want it from like, okay, so like a quarter to even like a 16th. I want to be able to use the finessiest of stuff, and I want it to be all the way up to a quarter so I can use freeloaders. Of course, like this one right here is the Mooch minnow. That was the mindset design behind this 610 medium light. It's sort of a cross between a medium light and a medium. I'm not big on like those really wimpy medium lights, but this rod has even a faster tip than my 7.0 medium has. And so there's sometimes that I really want to throw a lot of slack at a minnow and make it roll side to side more. So the more slack you throw in that faster tip allows for that minnow to really allow to sort of go side to side and have that right action. The problem is when you go up or you go down in size of, like, so say I go down to an 1/8, to me that's a tough one. And it's harder to make that cast. Being able to work that bait properly is important, and that's exactly what I designed this rod for, is the sort of in-between great minnow shaking rod no matter what you're throwing. Definitely for those little bit smaller, medium to smaller minnows, that's what this rod's designed for. I actually caught the big striper. If you guys got to see that on my social media, I caught that on that 610 medium light. Hey, 35-pound striper couldn't take it. I mean, it's a good rod. If it can catch a 35-pound striper on an 8-pound line and an ink freeloader, I'm pretty sure he'd be fine for an 8-pound bass. Sort of like, I torture tested it, let's put it that way. Next in the lineup is a 6/8 jerkbait rod. So my mindset, top water, jerkbait, square bills, combination of all of that. But the reason behind this rod more than anything, of course, you guys know a jerkbait's a staple, and it has been one of my favorites for the last few years. I mean, I've been catching them on a jerkbait more than anything. So the big thing with a jerkbait rod is not having too long of a handle, because it gets in your arm a little bit too much up in here. And so that's something I made a modification of that rod for, that shorter handle, plenty of length, and just really being able to impart the action in the bait that I wanted. This rod is a medium, 6/8 medium, and then my Select series is 6/9 medium. It's a little bit more backbone to it. So this is more so for my conventional, like the Maverick 110, even smaller jerk baits, up to like sort of in between, like small to medium sized jerk baits. My bigger profile jerk baits, so say I'm like throwing like a number like a 12 size like X-Trap, or I'm throwing some bigger profile jerk baits, that's where I'm going to really utilize that 6/9 more. So from medium to upper size, I'm going to throw, or to upper size jerk baits, I'm going to be throwing the Select series. But this rod's a great little lipless crankbait rod. It'll work for a square bill. It's a good all around rod. It's actually a good topwater rod. Being a 6/8, like a little popper, or like roll casting a pop R around, like a big profile popper, it works well for that with a little bit of braid, 30-pound braid, and you roll cast around it. I forgot how much I enjoy a smaller rod, like a lengthwise. It's just, you're just so much more efficient on the cast. Even looking at like a 7.3 versus like a 7-footer, you're so much better at making those casts and more efficient, like casting underneath docks and stuff. So it's the same thing with a 6/8. If you're not like a super efficient caster, you might go down in shorter rods if you're trying to make those roll cast. So that's another reason behind this. For the second spinning rod in the series, going back to the OG 7.0 medium. This rod has been upgraded with guides. It's a lighter weight, lighter feel, very similar handle. I really like that split grip. I don't like to have a lot there. Like, I like to like really split between my fingers and just grab a hold of the spinning rod and just hold on. Like, to me, I just don't like a real bulky spinning rod handle. And like, there's a lot of them out there that I've played with, and I went through like 10 of them. I'm like, I just went back to what I like, you know, and that was sort of that same handle of what I really like. Keeper's gonna be down here, of course, for your drop shot fishermen, your Ned rig fishermen, all that stuff, is you can put that down there where it's not getting for a drop shot and all that good stuff as well. So this rod, I modified it just maybe a smidge from the original. It might be just a tad lighter as far as in the tip, but just very little. I mean, it's like bend profile, like that's sort of how you sort of measure a rod. Like I could look at it, it might be like, I mean, you wouldn't be able to tell. Is what I'm telling you. So I was just really, I love this rod. This is obviously the rod that I throw a freeloader and throw in a lot of like minnow shaking, but also a great drop shot rod. Really good like Ned rigging, shaky head, wacky worm, just a great all around spinning rod. And that was definitely the mindset. And that's why it was a great rod from the get go. And it continues, like, if you got something good, why change it? You know what I'm saying? Like when it just, I just don't lose fish very often, knock on wood. Knock on this thing fiberglass or something, you know, it's like, I just haven't. And so obviously the key to me is, why change your setup if you're not losing fish? If you're losing fish, there's something wrong with your hook, something wrong with your setup. So to me, I feel like I've got that pretty well settled with this rod. He's a staple and has been a staple and will continue to be a staple in my arsenal for sure this season. Next on the lineup is the 7.0 medium heavy casting rod. This rod is in the one that I would call like the workhorse. He is the multitasker. He does everything. He truly is. If there's one rod in the lineup, if several people have asked me throughout the years, especially for like Christmas presents and stuff like that, or birthdays, if you had one rod to get, which one would you get, just as far as like all around? This is the best all around rod. 7.0 medium heavy. You could throw a swim bait on it, of course, a chatterbait, a spinner bait, a top water. I've caught them on a jigging spoon, a jigging wrap. I've caught them on everything on this rod. Like, it literally does not. I've caught them shaking a minnow on it with a bigger profile one. I've tried that. I've caught, it just goes on, and ploppers and top waters and dang, it just goes. I mean, you can catch them on, you could even catch them on like on a free rig, a lighter, like lighter Texas rig. It just sort of gives you everything. So basically you guys get the point. And the one thing you normally do is change your line size depending on obviously what technique you're using. But being a 7.0 medium heavy, I love the clean look of it. Again, it's upgraded blank, so being a little bit lighter and just overall having a better material was the mindset behind this one. Sort of, again, like I'm used to this one, and this rod, I was like, I went through a couple of them to make sure it was right. When you get used to something, you're like, all right, I gotta have that. So that rod is sort of replacing the OG 7.0 medium heavy for me. Next in the casting rod lineup is the 7.3 heavy. Very similar to the years past in the original series. The 7.3 heavy has that backbone. It's my perfect like pitching and flipping rod. Good, decent, sort of in between. Good, really good frog rod. Really good offshore big worm, football jig, casting distance where I want to still be able to pop my bait around. Like a 7.6 for football jigs a little bit big for me, but like for offshore, like a 7.3 is like the perfect offshore length. You can still, it's not heavy enough where you can't snap it around or snap a bait around or pull it around or pop it. You still have, it doesn't like just wear you out constantly if you're trying to impart action in the bait, but it's really just a good, great offshore rod. But it's also like a great just pitching and flipping rod. Like it has those things. I put braid on, I could even punch with it if I had to, you know, with a 1 ounce or a 3/4. It's pretty versatile when it comes to those things, but it's just like the great little pitching and flipping rod that, and right now I even have a hard head on it. So it's hard head with a new color Bronco bug. That sucker is pretty chili crawl. So that's a pretty old Bronco bug right there. He's definitely, he's done caught a few bass. So that guy's ready to roll. 7.2 medium heavy. This one right here is a great all-around rod. So like a lot of the swim jig, if you guys watched the You Follow video back when I caught him on a swim jig, that was sort of the original thought behind that original rod, was swimming a jig and having that rod for the swim jig. That's sort of what the design was from here too. Swim jig, frog, skipping, a great boat dock skipping rod, so like for skipping a jig. That was what I sort of had in mind with this rod. And upgraded glides, upgraded sensitivity, upgraded blank, like all of that was the mindset around this particular rod and really getting the most out of that in the field. So like I have a frog on it right now. I really like it for a frog as well because he has a super soft tip. That's always been with this particular deal. It's so hard to make a super fast tip in a rod and not have them break. And so that's always been something, because basically what you're doing is you're putting this, you want it to super fast tip and then you want it to shut off. You're basically going from this like super thin material and you're trying to make it transition to like thick material basically, and make it where it's like solid and firm, and you're having, so then there's always like that. So figuring that aspect out is always something that's a challenge. And so that was something that I really challenged the guys to try to do as much as they could to make sure that we were, you know, as solid as possible on those rods, you know, and ready to roll, which they have been. This is like, again, this is sort of like, even with a jig, skipping a jig, because of that faster tip, you're able to skip this rod better. It's my frog skipping rod, it's my jig skipping rod, it's a swim jig rod. It makes it easy to make cast. He doesn't like have as much of a parabolic bend down the rod that I want to throw a chatterbait on him as much, for me, because I like that rod to load up a little bit more with a chatterbait. Not my favorite chatterbait rod, but it might be yours. I mean, it just all depends on how you set the hook and what gear you're using, all of those things that sort of come into it. That was really just the mindset behind him, and he's going to be rigged up and ready to roll. Next on the list, 7.6 heavy. So this one's really tough for me because I go back and forth on what I want. So what I did, if you guys got any of those 7.6 heavies from the years past, I'm really big on a 7.6 heavy that's parabolic. A parabolic bend with a heavier rod is everything, whether it's punching, flipping, all around. I like that. So like last few years, it was a really heavy ash. It was almost an extra heavy flipping rod. And I love that. But what you do is you can't get that action without having a pretty heavy feeling rod. You know what I'm saying? These rods aren't $400 rods that you're getting. You're not having these like high modulus blanks. They're not like insanely like on the spectrum. They're not a $500 rod, so you can't pay for that material. So you're dealing with trying to give the best material and the best components that you possibly can for that price point, for what I'm using, right? I got to be able to be happy with it and know that I'm not losing fish, because you know me, if there's one thing you guys know about me, is I do not like, if my stuff is not perfect and right and I'm losing fish, I'm not using it. It's not going to happen. That just doesn't happen. Like, everything has to be perfect. If someone's like, here's a rod you have to use, it's I'm like, buddy, it ain't working in my setup. I'll put that sucker in the rod box and not throw it. So everything has to be perfect. And the mindset behind this one is it's heavy. It's a little bit under the action of what it was originally, which makes it more versatile with the big worm and some of the things you could do with it, even like a bigger glide. But it also, it's just a lot more balanced. It has better feel. You know what I'm saying? More sensitive. When I pitch around and flip around now, I feel a little bit even more sensitive from the blank and the material that they upgraded it on. So I feel really good about that. I do feel I still punch with it on with 50-pound braids. So that's good for a lot of those guys out there that don't have, like, you can have a specific punch rod, then you have a flipping rod, then you have this, and you have that. So really, mindset was like, you got to give all of those things into one thing. You could throw a mag draft and swim bait and stuff like that with this rod. And I also sort of wanted to sort of set it up with, I have a 7.7 heavy in the Select series. That rod's lighter than this rod is. So I wanted one rod that was heavier in the spectrum. That rod's even lighter than this rod. And so you sort of have both, right? So you have both to choose from in the series, from this 2.0 to the Select series. You're going to have sort of both ends of the spectrum in the 7.7 heavy lineup. So that was sort of the mindset there. But he's like, I don't know, you can sort of see he's got a good parabolic bend. And when I say parabolic bend, like, it means I don't want it to shut off really fast. So that rod, like, it actually bends down into here a little bit. So what that allows it to do, my good buddy Sean Weeda, shout out to Weeda's Marine, he's one of the better flippers I've ever been in my entire life. And he was always big on that. Denny Brower, all the great flippers for the most part that I've ever dealt with, they've always been big on a parabolic bend. It's just been about hookup ratio to land ratio. I hate losing fish. So does everybody out there fishing, period. So to me, that was the mindset with this one right here. All right, last but not least is a good chatterbait rod. You wanted to have one 7.3 medium heavy. This is not exclusive to a chatterbait. You could throw a swim jig on it. You could do a lot of different things. You can have like a light flipping rod. But to me, like, this is a good all-around chatterbait rod when you're on flats, casting around. That's what I designed this rod for. He's actually a tad softer than my rod was last few years. So I softened him up just a bit. I felt like there was times when I was winding a chatterbait that I felt like the bend in the rod didn't go back far enough for me to where like the fish, I could see it wasn't hooked as good as it should be. And so I wanted a rod, like I made an unbelievable chatterbait rod in the 7.4 in the selects. It's like seriously the best chatterbait rod I've ever thrown. I wanted a rod that was similar to that one. I can't make it with the material just because it's an upgraded rod, you know, but I could make it somewhere it's like better action for ultimate, because I'll pick this rod up just, I like to skip docks with a 7.3 medium heavy. So I wanted a rod that had similar action, but I couldn't make it specific because you still need, it's a fine line of having it too soft where you don't have control of your bait when you're roll casting, and then making it too stiff. And so I think you're just trying to sort of blend in between those two was the goal. And that's exactly what we got with this one. So that was where I was at. Of course, I mean, when I look at this rod, I think chatterbait because I've caught so many bass on a 7.3 medium heavy in the original series. And I'm like, we're gonna tweak that sucker just a little bit and get him ready to roll. Now, of course, this is also my favorite hair jig rod, offshore hair jigging. Bad bone, your line locks up. It's never a better bite. I did that as well. Big spinner bait. Of course, I wanted to have him ready for that. Old Big from Accent, got to have him ready to roll. Spinnerbait roll casting, spinnerbait around, same thing with a 7.0 medium heavy. Like that was like offshore casting. Typically 7.3 medium heavies and like that 7.3 zone, that's when I'm casting more distance on flats. I'm covering water, I'm fishing. That you wouldn't think 7.0 to a 7.3 would make that big of a difference, but I'm telling you, like, I should do a video on that. Like, what is your casting distance on, like, from a 7.0 to a 7 this to a 7.6? It would be interesting to sort of see, but I mean, I just know personally for me, the other thing, not only casting distance, but the big thing is when you make a long cast like that, you have more of a better hookup ratio because you have a little bit more, so you have more leverage with a 7.3 than you will a 7.0 because you can move more line. So there's it's twofold. When you're making longer casts, not only you making longer casts with this rod, but you're also, when you do get a bite from a long distance away, you have more leverage and you have a little bit more power to drive that hook home and get that fish in the boat. So that's sort of like the mindset behind that guy. Everything else is really similar. I did change out the hook hanger. So I had the hook hangers for like late last year. I swapped them out. Lower profile, smaller profile. Like to me, this is not like a lot of frills and there's not a lot of like flash, I'm going to say, in this rod, meaning like I didn't put something on this rod to like show off, or like everything on here is on there for a reason, and everything that would be flashy that had no reason doesn't need to be on there. It's a fishing rod that needs to perform on the water, and that's exactly what we designed with the 2.0 series. I'm no BS. That's how it is. Listen, you got a job to do this season. Now go do it. So that is where we're gonna leave it, guys. It is very humbling to have an opportunity to create several series of rods, what I wanna do. I'm not just saying that. That is something to me, like looking back, I've had time to reflect this off season and just sort of think through stuff and be like, man, I'm so blessed. I'm so thankful, having a beautiful family. I get to live out my dream being a professional angler. To being able to sort of bring out things with your name and being passionate about signature series stuff and PD and developing products that a lot of young anglers and older anglers alike are getting use out of and seeing success out of. That's something to me is very powerful. It's very humbling. It really is. And so I'm not just saying that. I do appreciate you all. I appreciate each and every one of you guys who follows the channel. If you can do me a favor, if you are not subscribed to the channel right now, make sure to do so. We have a lot of people that follow the channel, a lot of people that are always on here, and we have more people that are watching that are non-subscribers than subscribers. So if you enjoy our content, you enjoy what's going on, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and every time you can engage and let me know that you like a video, just drop a comment, let me know you liked that video, because that does help us in a lot of ways, and liking the ultimate video itself to get it pushed out in the algorithm and have more people learn a little bit about the products or learn, just have fun with fishing. So keep your head on a swivel, go catch some bass this season. We're gonna have some fun. We'll see you on the next one.